Well, Sarah, here we are again, two angels in the service of the Lord. It's another beautiful day on Cloud 9. In fact, the weather is downright, well, heavenly. Last time we were together, you were watching over a group of Presbyterians in a new suburb of Pittsburgh called Mount Lebanon. These people in 1925 had formed a committee.
Oh, a committee, yes, of course.
And the committee had founded a new church. I remember you telling me that in the first 25 years, that church had grown from 84 people worshiping in a school auditorium to a thriving organization with a beautiful church building, over 2,000 members, myriads of devotional and outreach programs and committees, lots of committees.
Lots of committees.
It's now 1975 on Earth. How has your church been doing over the past 25 years?
Oh my goodness, my little church, second 25 years, have been a vibrant period, during which the congregation has been served by a succession of 3 senior pastors. John Calvin Reed, the silver-tongued preacher with the combed-back white hair and a melodious southern accent. Dale Milligan, a dynamic program innovator, and Richard Cronin, a man with kilts and inspiring sermons, punctuated by the recurring question, "Are you listening?" Yep. During this period, the church also called its first female associate pastor.
Really?
Yes, Peg Yingling, to serve as Director of Christian Education. And the church has gone through a number of developments, changing its name from Mount Lebanon Presbyterian Church and acquiring a building known as Southminster House, as well as a camp down in Greene County, which is called Windy Ridge, all after proper consideration by the appropriate committees.
But of course. But tell me, do they still have a music program?
Oh boy, do they ever. In addition to choirs for every age group, this period marked the church's first overseas handbell tour, when new music director Tom Flynn led a group of high school singers on a tour of England, Ireland, and Wales, and also to play at a White House Christmas party.
No.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, how about other youth activities?
Well, the church has had a large active high school youth group, meeting regularly for devotions and choir practice and church league basketball games and parties. Well, not necessarily in that order in which I just spoke.
Well, how about technology? Has the church advanced on that front?
Oh, you betcha. We've been kicking and screaming into the latest technology with dial-a-prayer, yeah, a service, and a closed-circuit TV broadcast of Dr. Reed's children's sermons featuring bird life in Winton.
Well, at least there will be a few decades before they start cluttering up our cloud with all of their stored data. I mean, really, how would they like it if we stored all our heavenly data down there in the records in Southminster Church?
Well, to tell you the truth, I think you'd be perfectly safe. Nobody would ever find it.
How has the church developed in programs for seniors of the community?
Why, they've done just that. In 1974, they started a very popular program called Adult Interest Center, in which senior citizens meet on Friday for activities and discussions and food, lunch.
Well, tell me, I'm over 1,000 years old by the Earth calendar, and I have my silver halo card. Would I qualify for membership?
I know. Why don't we go down to Earth and see? They are celebrating the anniversary of the founding of their organization. And the committee has actually prayed for help in organizing the celebration. So to help out, I have provided them with a quiz to see how much their current members remember about the second 25 church.
But will they be able to see us?
Oh, only if we let them. Remember now, angels have appeared to Moses, the shepherds, the Virgin Mary, and among others. I think we could do it here. And we'll just drop in on their Thanksgiving dinner celebration and see how they do on my little quiz.
Let's do it.
Oh, greetings, Southminster. Be not afraid. We have come to see how much you know, and to see about what you remember about the happenings in your church during its second 25 years. You have been provided with a quiz. There will be questions here, and they are also duplicated in papers on your tables, right under the roll desk. We will now go over the questions on it and see how many you get right. Well, here is your first question. In January of 1950, the Mount Lebanon Presbyterian Church had how many members? 2,000, you're close. 1,940 members. With that many members and no contemporary worship service competing for those people on Sunday, even the balconies were full every single week. And on special Sundays, Easter and Christmas, extra chairs had to be brought in and put in the aisle so that there would be enough seating for all of the people in the church. And the choir members coming down the aisle just had to weave in and out of all those chairs.
In 1948, and again in 1955, Dr. John Calvin Reed, senior pastor, published a book of his children's sermons entitled Bird Life in Winton. This was perhaps an inspiration for Dr. Reed, and Mr. Rogers, who was also a Presbyterian minister. Picture, if you will, a little cardboard church sitting in the pulpit. In his introduction to the book, and what was the book?
Bird Life in Winton.
You got it.
And what was it about? Well, I'll tell you, it was for the birds. I will just read and try to read the way Dr. Reed would have said it, a little bit from the introduction to this book. Picture on a stand beside the pulpit, a little white cardboard church with steeple and miniature bells. The first Birderian church at Winton. Perched around the church, in front of it and on top, are various bird members. Mrs. Robin with a new spring hat, Senator Starling with a cane under his wing, Professor Magpie wearing his commencement cap and gown, Baldy Eagle with a baseball cap, Mr. Heron with a folding rod. These are all colored cardboard cutouts, subtly suggesting human traits as well as bird characteristics. Each Sunday, a new member appears. I hold this new bird in my hand as I tell the story, then place him or her with the other birds in front of the church. And I just may add that this was ostensibly written for children, but an awful lot of people realized it was really for their parents.
I do declare, Joseph, if you had silver slid back hair, we'd think Dr. Calvin Reed had just returned here today.
And you know, the most amazing thing is this book, which was last printed in 1955, last second printing, is still available on Amazon today for under $15. Christmas hint.
There will be a rush on Amazon tomorrow. In the late 1950s, children of the church watched the sermonette from this particular area of Southminster Church. Does anybody remember where that happened?
chapel, you were right.
Great. It was in the chapel on a closed circuit TV. I didn't even have a TV in 1950. No one was ever sure whether the reason for the TV broadcast to the chapel was the crowded conditions in the sanctuary, or the fact that kids in 1950 would watch just about anything on television.
Another technical marvel instituted by Dr. Reed long before the era of podcasts was dial-a-prayer, or as we knew it, dial-a-prayer, which consisted of daily one-minute devotions over the telephone, delivered in a rich southern drawl. Many church youth grew up thinking that the Lord's Prayer sounded strange without that accent.
Yes, people would actually call, dial a prayer on a daily basis to hear their prayer for the day. And in 1957, after careful consideration by a committee, the church purchased the house across Castle Shannon Boulevard, and they named it Westminster Hall. The first floor was used for Sunday school classes and meetings of various church organizations, including the session, and for occasional high school youth parties. The upper floors, which we hope were well soundproof because of all those rauncous kids down in the lower level, but the upper level was an apartment for a succession of associate pastors. So do you know what year the house was refurbished to be used as a residence for the senior pastor? And the name was changed to Southminster House. Does anybody remember that year?
1968.
Right you are.
Does it already say it? You are such a alert.
America needs more lawyers.
Two succeeding senior pastors and their families occupied the house before it was turned back into a meeting place for church organizations. Those pastors were Dick Cromie.
Paul Botoff.
No.
Dale
Senior
Milligan.
pastors.
Dale Milligan, you are right.
No. Milligan and Cromie.
There they are.
Can't you just see him saying, "Are you listening?"
In 1965, the church called its first female pastor, whose name was Peg Yingling. Right you are. Reverend Yingling served as minister of youth from then until 1967, when she left to assume similar duties at Trinity Presbyterian Church in Pittsburgh's inner city.
Well, the well-beloved Dr. Reed retired in 1967 and was succeeded by Dale Milligan, who served as senior pastor from 1968 until 1971, when he left to accept a call to a church in Oklahoma City.
Following Dr. Milligan's departure, the church called Richard Cromie, right, who served as senior pastor until 1983. Dr. Cromie, in recognition of his Scottish heritage, initiated Southminster's annual Scottish Sunday service, complete with kilts, bagpipe, and an elaborate block-long parade of elders, deacons, and community dignitaries from the parking lot to the church, led by piper and pipes. It was something, and it put us on the map.
And stopped traffic for sure. Meanwhile, as a result of the 1958 consolidation of the United Presbyterian Church of North America and the Presbyterian Church in the USA, going into the United Presbyterian Church in the USA, Mount Lebanon had two churches with the same name. So the denomination declared that the older of the two churches, the former Mount Lebanon United Presbyterian Church, also known as Twin Towers, would keep the name, and that this church would have to change. So naturally, a committee was formed to deal with the problem. Ultimately, a contest was held among the members, and the name Southminster Presbyterian Church was adopted in the year
Anybody?
62?
Close.
58.
Well, if it was by committee, it probably had to have been 65 or 60.
65. 65 it was. I understand that one elder, who shall remain nameless, tried somewhat sarcastically, but could not convince the session to adopt his suggestion of Saint Gabriel of the Sorrowful Virgin Presbyterian Church. It would have been first. This elder, incidentally,
It's his father.
well, I won't mention his name, when he was a little older, had a strange resemblance to one of the angels who's speaking to you right now.
During the 1960s and the early 70s, the church had a large active youth fellowship program. In addition to programs, choir, and lessons at the church on Tuesday after school, on Sunday mornings, and on Sunday evenings, members of that group got together almost every Saturday night to attend a sporting event. This weekly sporting event was not the Super Bowl, but yes, the church league basketball game, which was almost always followed by a party in someone's basement.
This is probably the derivation of the old saying, don't worry about the neighbors. They think this is a church group.
The church youth fellowship group also participated in seasonal retreats at Camp T. Frank Souls, at Camp Conaquee, and of course, at our wonderful Windy Ridge.
Meanwhile, in 1969, the church had a new minister of music, who was, and Mr. Flynn took 4 high school students from Southminster along with the handbell team from his former church in Dover, Delaware, on Southminster's first international handbell tour. The Ringers toured what countries? England, Ireland, and
We
Wales.
did a trip like that.
Excellent. One of the 4 ringers, incidentally, was a high school student by the name of, well, not him again, who had never held a handbell before that time. Got to start sometime. In 1971, the bell team played at the White House Christmas party for which president?
Nixon.
Right.
Good. You know your
These
history.
people know their history.
I know, I'm pretty impressed. So do you know what year the church dedicated a newly built lodge and what it was called?
This is it.
It's Erie Martin.
There you are.
Yes, it was. It was named after Harry Martin, who was a longtime church director of Christian education.
This was
And the camp was called Windy Ridge. Does anybody know the year? Think about it. Where were you then? 1970. One of the problems at the camp was a shortage of water. There's your answer. Oh my goodness, all those kids there going out and playing in the mud and getting dirty, and there was no water. You have to remember that that water would be for bathing, cooking, and plumbing.
The shortage of water was due to a mining activity under the camp. During a week-long high school retreat in 1973, everyone in the place was required to go for a daily dip in the pool at the nearby Ryerson Station State Park, and I mean required. We probably should have helped them out by sending a few clouds. shouldn't we?
Oh, would have been a perfect time for a rainstorm. So in 1974, Southminster started a new activity on Fridays for senior citizens. And of course, that is, yes. And yes, Joseph, Your silver halo card qualifies you to attend this activity. Yes, I knew you'd be excited.
Well, Southminster, from the answer to this short quiz, you can see that your guardian angel continued to watch over you during the second 25 years of your church history. We will appear to you again to see how things went in the third 25 years.
Well, dear friends of Southminster, thank you for your wonderful fellowship. It's been heavenly.
And now, we've got to fly.
I want to again thank everyone for attending tonight. I'll ask our pastor Doug if you have any closing words for us. You don't feel like you have to get up and leave. Enjoy your dessert, have coffee. Have nothing to say. But at any rate, thank you again so much for coming.